Hello friends, this is Pastor Scott and we are moving into week 2 of Advent. What a fantastic time of year this is, and I hope you are approaching it with the joy of the season, because Advent week 2 is all about joy. The candle that we lit to celebrate the beginning of the second week of Advent represents joy, particularly the joy of the shepherds as they heard the announcement from the angels. And of course, at Eagle Naz this week, the exciting thing was our kids' Christmas program. So I do hope you got the chance to take that in and to enjoy it. One of the favorite memories that I have of our time living in Israel was the opportunity on Christmas Eve to actually go down to the shepherds' fields in Bethlehem. There's a tradition in Bethlehem, of course, every year around Christmas time, and the olive wood shops are open and selling nativity sets and that kind of thing, and there's always a choir festival that happens at the Church of the Nativity and the main manger square that's right there in Bethlehem. Well, when we were there, we were able to be there Christmas 1999, right on the edge of the new millennium in the year 2000. And there was a lot of things that were going on, and it was a lot of fun. But while we were there, we went and joined with a group of Christians from around the world for a time of singing Christmas carols on Christmas Eve at the Shepherd's Field. It was a lot of fun and an opportunity to be with both Arab Christians, American Christians, people from Europe, around the world, as we gathered and remembered the celebration of the announcement of the angels to the shepherds. And it was just a great time. But not only to think about the angels that were singing to the shepherds there, but to realize we were in those same fields right around Bethlehem where David had watched over flocks, where he had been a shepherd boy. And here we were remembering that Jesus, in the line of David, had become our king. Now, one of the things that as I was studying and staying there and began doing guiding for the University of Jerusalem that I had done my graduate degree, we always got a lot of fun questions. So especially around Christmas time, there's all these different legends and various things that have grown. A lot of the legends around Christmas time come from medieval Europe. As squares would gather in some of these medieval villages, and they would put up nativity sets and things. And usually it was a wooden stall with donkeys and cattle and all these things, which aren't mentioned anywhere in the scripture, but that's okay. We put those things together, and hopefully you've got a nativity set at your house. Growing up, we had some friends. They were Christians from the country of Lebanon, and they had grown up in Beirut and immigrated to the United States. And we thought it was funny because they would put out a nativity set in which it would be a rock, kind of a cave. And so instead of a wooden manger set and things, they used these rock cut. We thought, what in the world? And so we would ask about that, and they would say, well, that's what we were taught. Well, going to Bethlehem, I realized that they don't have forests with pine and fir trees and various things. Almost everything is made out of limestone. So they were right. They had it right. And in most of the village around Bethlehem there, the way that the homes would be built was around the natural features that were in the limestone caves. So there would be kind of a cave, and you would hollow that out and build your houses on top of that. And on your handout, I'm going to include some pictures of kind of a 4-room house and what that would look like and the way that houses would be built there. But a lot of legends have grown up, and so I remember, being in Israel, and I would get questions about different things. They would ask about, were the shepherds here part of, were they raising flocks for the Levitical services in the temple? And we don't know that for sure. We're not told that in the New Testament. But we do know that some of the fields around Bethlehem were providing flocks that would be used in the sacrifices there. One of the interesting ones is this legend about that Passover lambs would be wrapped in swaddling clothes and things. Well, there's actually nothing in the Bible, nothing in any Jewish literature that says about that. It's kind of a fun story, but we want to be careful about some of these things. Or that babies were wrapped in priestly garments and various things. Okay, so we want to be careful of that. But here's what we do know, that these shepherds were in the same fields where David had watched over flocks. and also that these shepherds were personally invited by God to come and see his Messiah that was being born. Which begs the question, where were the religious leaders? Why were the religious leaders not there? In Matthew's gospel, it tells us that when the wise men came to Bethlehem, the religious leaders knew, to Jerusalem, they knew that Bethlehem was the place where the Messiah would be born. So why didn't they go down and visit this newborn Messiah? In Ezekiel 34, in the Hebrew Scriptures, there's a prophecy there where the prophet Ezekiel looks forward about 400 years and says the time is coming when the shepherds of Israel, the religious leaders who are meant to be the ones caring for the flock of God, his chosen people, would become self-focused and would forget about the needs of the people. And so in Ezekiel 34, God says, I myself will feed my own sheep. I will raise up a shepherd like David, and I will make a covenant of peace with my people. And God says, you are the sheep of my pasture, you are my people, and I am your God. In other words, there's this prophecy that God himself would become a shepherd to his people. And part of that was because the priests, the religious leaders, would be forsaking their duty. Well, it's interesting. We look forward to the first century, and that's what had happened. The religious leaders that were there in Herod's household in Jerusalem are kind of more worried about their role in political power and getting close to King Herod and being near what was happening in the power of Jerusalem rather than going and visiting this Messiah that had been born. And it's almost as if God is saying, fine, I will go find shepherds of my own, and I'll invite them to come and visit the newborn king. And in fact, Jesus himself in John chapter 10 says that he is the good shepherd that has come to care for the flock of God. And when Jesus looks at the people, they are like sheep without a shepherd. And so he himself has come to become our shepherd. So the joy of the shepherds hearing the announcement of peace seems to echo these passages we see in Ezekiel 34, that God himself has made a covenant of peace, and he has inserted himself into history to become the one that cares for his people. It's interesting because we live in a day and time, even now, where we wonder, do our leaders, do they pay attention to the needs of the people? Do they connect with us? And God is saying, I am here among you. I have come to care for your needs. I hear the cries of my people, and I will draw close to them through my shepherd, the good shepherd, Jesus Christ. So may we find joy in the announcement that comes to the shepherds. The announcement still comes to us as well, that we have a Messiah who knows us, who draws close to us, and who is, in fact, our good shepherd and cares for us as a sheep. Well, may you celebrate that in the second week of Advent as we read with joy about the promises of our good shepherd. May God be with you this week.